Now, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Black Panther, and I'll tell you what I have to say about it, and also the things that I'm going to probably put out my opinion on this. It's one of those movies, those black superhero movies, as they call them. I don't really consider it a black superhero movie. I consider it a movie, okay? Any type of movie, any sort of movie. People say that this is the first, black superhero movie. Technically, it isn't, because for those who know one particular black superhero movie and forget to mention this black superhero movie. So here's a black history lesson for you kids out there. Originally, the first black superhero movie that was made back in 1993, it was called Meteor Man. Now, you can look this up if you think I'm bullshitting you. Look up Meteor Man. It was done by a comedic actor known as, and he's also a producer, named Robert Townsend. Now, a lot of people forget the fact that he exists because he made a movie that was a comedy. And it was an interesting comedy. Now, there was also another one called Blank Man. There was also another one that Shaquille O'Neal did called Steel. And a lot of people forget those movies for some reason because they weren't a hit, but also the fact that Blade was another one, which became, it wasn't very popular at the time, but it became a cult following that spawned 3 sequels. And the fact that this movie became such a media frenzy over the fact that one negative review caused Rotten Tomatoes to freak out, and a bunch of people freaking out about this movie being so bad. I'm just going to explain to you, it turns out this movie's actually good. And the fact that the story is involved around the whole fact that that a man who became a king because his father died during a terrorist explosion, and the fact that in this story this man must take the mantle of king and also guardian, which symbolizes the fact that they had this story where it evolves around their culture and this fictional tale of Wakanda, this fictional universe of a civilization that people see as, well, uncivilized, turns out to be secretly civilized and advanced, which became an interesting story in itself, that their guardian happens to be a Black Panther, and thus they gave the mantle to Black Panther because that Black Panther became the savior of all the tribes, and they all reunited to become one nation, which was Wakanda. And the thing about this story is that this kind of had the whole sins of the father story. Spoiler alert on that one. It was basically the sins of the father type of storyline, where the king who died and the son must take the mantle of the king and try to do what was right when there were wrongs that had to be unwronged in this storyline. Now, I have to give Chadwick Boseman credit. He actually made a very interesting character out of T'Challa, sorry. And he basically did a good job with that, with the main character. As for a lot of the other characters in the movie, I got to give credit to them. They made, like, especially the female characters, they made some interesting plays. They actually do very well. They portrayed themselves very well in the movie. And also the fact, I got to give props to Michael B. Jordan. Even though, he had some highs and lows in the movie industry, I I did like one movie that he did. He did Creed, which was a good movie, and I have to admit that was a very good movie. Michael B. A lot of people were worried that Michael B. might screw this up because he had his ups and downs making movies, especially when he did the Fantastic Four movie. But he proved that he could play a character that was a villain, which was Eric Killmonger, and flat out stole the show. I have to admit he stole the show with his character because he made such a convincing character trying to, and the whole story was basically about how Killmonger himself wants to liberate black people everywhere, but by starting a big war, which was the problem. He wanted to become this revolutionary character that would try to save the human race type of person, meaning his own kind, from being oppressed. And the thing was, it wasn't like that. It was like basically the whole nation was isolated. Wakanda was isolated from the outside world because they don't want outsiders, in their nation taking advantage of them and all that other stuff. And that was like the biggest storyline there that had this immense, telling of even though we are the advanced civilization here, we could easily share our technology to help people, but at the same time, they were worried that they might get taken advantage of or possibly hurt. But a lot of people made these jokes about this story, about, there was like a lot of trolls on the internet that were making the joke about Black Panther being alt-right. And guys, don't do that. That's just I understand that people were making that joke, but at the same time, it was trying to say, hey, we want to help people, but at the same time, we're scared. And it was an interesting storyline that I kind of, realized, this is an interesting tale of revenge and also failure, also redemption. And it did tell an interesting story in itself that I really liked. And I actually have to admit, it is a good story, and it should have. And do I recommend you guys watch it? Yes. It has strong, compelling characters, interesting characters that you would like to watch. It's not just T'Challa himself. It was the whole cast and everybody in that movie. It had a beautiful setting. It had a beautiful, setup. And I have to admit, yes, I recommend you watch this film. You won't be disappointed. Anyways, guys, I gotta go. Leave your thoughts down below and tell me what you think of the movie if you watched it, or if you haven't watched the movie. I recommend you watch it. That's all I gotta say. Bye-bye.